Thank you for your patience. And this is Sam. Good morning, Sam.
Good morning.
Hi.
I'd like to start out with saying that I honestly agree with Mr. Paul about 90% of everything he says. But I'm honestly afraid that, for example, Iran's not going to pick up on this good example that we're going to set. And if we are really going to pull back all our military from around the world, can we very least leave a set of keys to a nuclear weapons sub with Israel?
Well,
I mean, just fine, just in case Iran doesn't pick up on our example.
Okay. Hey, thank you, Sam. I appreciate it.
everything that we should do should be designed for the security of this nation. That's the only thing that we have authority for, is to defend this country. So when our national security is threatened, we do whatever is necessary. But worrying about Iran not responding to a more open foreign policy where you actually talk to people. We have 12,000 diplomats. I keep thinking, wonder why we don't use more diplomacy in the world. We use more bombs. We use a lot of bombs, but no diplomacy. I would think that they deserve as much correspondence and diplomacy as Khrushchev did when he was ready to bomb us and bury us, and he had 30,000 nuclear weapons, and he had killed 100 million. Well, communism killed hundreds of millions of people as well as China. But how did we do it? We talked to him. We started trading with him. Just think of the wasted military effort in Vietnam. 10 years of Americans and the French killing 1 million Vietnamese. We lose the war. We lost 60,000 people. We ushered in the age of inflation of the 1970s. Guess what? They become westernized. There was no domino effect, so we accomplished a lot more in peace than we did in war. So I think the war propaganda is war propaganda. It's identical to what they did against Iraq. The real threat from Iran is way blown out of proportion. But be prepared for anybody that might attack us. I actually like submarines. I think submarines, even at the height of the Cold War, I advocated probably we could defend this country with 6 real good submarines because we could be every place and we could retaliate and nobody would attack us. Nobody is going to attack us.
You were in the military.
I was in the military for 5 years in the 60s as a flight surgeon. And it was not a good time. I was called to service during the Cuban Missile Crisis. And that was difficult. But just think of how we resolved that. Kennedy gets on the phone and talks to Khrushchev. And Khrushchev says, I'm paraphrasing, obviously. Khrushchev says, well, we have missiles in Cuba because you have them in Turkey and Eastern Europe. And Kennedy says, oh, okay, I'll take some of my military, but I don't want to tell the American people because they'd be annoyed if I did that. But they did it. The weapons left Cuba, and we didn't have a nuclear holocaust. What we ended up doing was we waited until the economics of the Soviet Union collapsed, as Austrian economists predicted, because it was a non-viable system. But those same economists say that what we're doing, our invasion and occupation of these countries, will lead to the same consequence. We will be beaten by our economic problems. The biggest threat to us now is our unwillingness to cut anything in this debt. So we're not going to be attacked. Nobody's going to attack us. Even China. We spend 7 times more for military than China does right now. What are we doing right now? And I want to bring troops home from Japan and Korea. Well, our president just sent troops over to Australia because he thinks there's going to be a fight with China. I think he wants to stir something up. So I think all that, whether it's China or whether it's Iran or whatever, I think we should be strong, willing to defend this country, and not be the greatest danger is that we'll overreact to false information like we did in Iraq.
Is there ever a justification for a preemptive strike? Can you imagine the circumstances? You was talking about defensive. That used to call it the Defense Department. They used to call it the War Department at one time. Yeah. Is there ever? Can you imagine there could be philosophically? Is there ever a justification for a preemptive?
Not a true preemptive attack because that's aggression. We've committed attacks against countries like Iraq. They did not aggress against us. The Iranians have never attacked us.
Right.
So no, there's no reason. But the president, even without congressional authority, the president has an obligation to retaliate if we're attacked, and he's also obligated if the attack is imminent. Let's say picture, they're ready to land on our shores. You don't have to wait until you get directions from the Congress. But other than that, when you go to a country 6,000 miles away that has no ability to attack us, never has attacked us, and then say, well, we have to have a preemptive attack, that is aggression. And that's not what America's all about. That's why the founders were very clear. They did not want the president ever to make these decisions. It was to be made by the people through their members of Congress. It should be very restrained, and they advocated more friendship, more trade with people, whomever would be willing to trade and talk to us. And that was their advice for our foreign policy.